Welcome to Podcaster Toten. My name's Rad.
I'm Matt.
Hello, I'm Tech.
Let's do some chatting about the Ascension group.
Well,
So, what do you want to start with that? You want to start with their facilities?
I think that's, the easiest way to kind of keep in line. Let's do what?
Start with the namesake, Ascension.
Must ascend to Agartha. Ascend from darkness.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Lots of ascension.
Mucho.
Big ups. Rockets. Go to the moon. There's lots of going up, basically. Everyone wants to go up. No one wants to go down.
All right, and that's the end on Ascension.
That's the end of that podcast.
But if you think about it, though, sometimes you have to go down to go up.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. All right, so actually, because of the mention of the Cosmodrome, I am going to hijack this conversation and talk about and ask about the difference between campaign and zombies. We obviously have a campaign mission at the Cosmodrome, and we have with Woods having the 115 tattoo and talking about the Ascension group and all these beautiful, wonderful words. And then we have a situation there in which the 5 telephones are calling the Ascension phones. It's a whole thing. I don't know, how do you connect them all?
Well, I guess the first thing is, do we hit the time frame of the mission and the time frame of the map? Because the map, at least, I think takes place, was it like 63 or something like that?
Yeah,
I think
they both take place 1963. The Ascension, the zombies map takes place before the mission.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place before the mission.
Right.
Because I feel like it would make more sense that after Mason and everything sabotaged the facility, that it would have been left for Ultimus to come in.
See, that might have been a bad move, considering they were planning this like Broken Arrow conference thing, and like to bring together the world. That was like their plan with Broken Arrow to create like an alliance to fight Samantha. So that might have just looked bad to sabotage their rocket facility and to kill all their scientists.
Yeah, I mean, at least to some extent, they're not like mutually exclusive. I guess you could still sort of have this coalition, and I'm just playing devil's advocate, but like you could have the coalition and have them kill the scientists. So like I guess the United States gets the edge, but whatever. More importantly, it's just confusing as to how they just seem to clean up real fast after a zombie outbreak.
Well, I mean, if you want to go into that.
5, I know, but like,
one day.
One day. Well,
one day. Classified to 5 one day.
I mean, we don't really get to see the rest of the. I mean, there is the war room, I guess, but like, at least in the intro to Classified, we don't see much of what else is out there. So I just always took it as, it's still like in recovery or whatever. Which I don't know why they'd bring someone there after an outbreak just happened, but whatever.
Oh, that's cleaned up. They cleaned up. Actually, it's after 2 outbreaks. There was the Dr. Lehman one, and then there's the Classified one.
Well, I guess the other thing too, though, is that the damage is sort of different for each outbreak, because isn't there like toppled landers and stuff, and things crashed into the ground in in the Ascension map, where I feel like it's a little bit more involved. Like the actual structure around the facility seems like it's all like toppled and destroyed, versus like you have a bunch of bloody desks.
That's true. Well, I mean, if you look outside the map of Ascension, there's a lot more like rocket sites. So I mean, it might be contained to this one where Ultimus is.
That's true. I mean,
to follow them.
Yeah, I guess that's true, because the mission itself, right? It doesn't follow the map. Sort of what is it like? What's a 1-to-1
layout? No, it's It doesn't seem there. I don't think there's really any. There's just not really any layout. There's reused assets, obviously, but not layout.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so I guess because the other thing I was just thinking about, like, is the Ascension map like a fracture or something like that. But I guess it would make sense that it's just like one of the other launch sites that's just been overrun.
Yeah, I don't know. What if, right? Speaking of disregarding the cleanup times, which we've mentioned for maps,
They're
puff, puff.
crazy good.
Just really
Yeah.
good at making things disappear.
They got really good cleaning crews in this universe.
What
Top
if
man.
I forget the actual reason besides, killing people and stealing some information, that they went to the Cosmodrome, but I'm now thinking, the fact that we've got the 115 tattoo, like what if they're going to, on the side they're getting a little bit of that information about the outbreak that recently happened.
Yeah, there's like this. That mission is a little bit strange in the way it's set up because the playable portion is like you go in, you blow up a rocket, a bunch of scientists burn, and then you go underground, and then the cutscene just says, "Okay, now you guys blew up a car that was containing Dragovich and Kravchenko, and they're dead now. They're dead now. Don't worry about it." But you don't actually even see that. So it's like there's more to this mission that you don't actually see in game. So I could buy something like that.
Is Purnell still in charge of the CIA? Is he still the direct? Like, what is Purnell's exact role right now?
He's the station chief at Groom Lake at this point.
Okay, because the other thing, question that I was sort of wondering about is like, it could also be, other organizations aren't really aware of all the 115 stuff yet too. It could just be, relegated to Purnell and those in the know who have like top level clearance. So maybe that could also explain why like the CIA, sabotaging the space race stuff is still kind of parallel but separate from all the 115 things.
It's possible. It's not totally clear how much people, like the general public, knows in this universe about zombies. We know that there's like rumors of like Camp Edward in 2025 by Marlton, that there's robots and maybe even zombies in 1-1. People know what 115 is, I suppose. I suppose that's on the periodic table, but people probably don't know about zombies. Well, yeah, what it does.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all like hearsay and rumor, and I don't know. I still stand by it, even be willing to bet that most people within the government probably don't even really know. It seems to follow the trend that like when you get to the 115, the really, really, spooky stuff, it's only for a small group of individuals who are really, like, I guess, knowledgeable and experienced enough to deal with it. That anyone outside, it's kind of left in the dark.
Right. Yeah, I guess it falls under the theme of, like, there's history that, they don't tell you. It's not in the books. It's Black Ops.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's kind of fitting, right? There's Black Ops, and then there's like even Blacker Ops, or the Black Ops of the Black Ops, and that's pretty much zombies and how it kind of operates. Because I feel like if there is that, and I do believe there's that campaign storyline connection, it has to operate that way. That it's such a secret part to history that it would make sense. It would have no bleed over if the two are meant to be sharing the same universe. Because there's a lot of things that like would really derail the other storyline in the campaign timeline. So it makes sense that so much of this has to just be self-contained and left in the dust.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, question: switching some facilities. What do you guys think about? We've got Kino, Moon, and Shang. We've got Russian symbols writing, etc., or whether it's across them. How are we looking at those ones? Guess we can start Kino, just because that was our earliest crossover, so to speak.
Kino is very interesting because based on just geography, it should be in West Berlin, which is controlled by or looked over by the U.S. and their allies rather than the Soviet Union. Based on the tower, which is on the other side, it should be in East Berlin. Yet there's like the Thunder Gun there. I guess mainly the Thunder Gun is like that and like the fact that Richtofen and co find a lunar lander for some reason.
I think it's sort of like what happened with Griffin Station, with where they were teleporting people to Griffin Station. I think they're sites that probably no one really controls, but they're being monitored by the Soviet Union and the United States. And
Right.
given
Because
the
they have a
knowledge
history of outbreaks, right?
Yeah,
Those outbreaks are specifically mentioned and classified as being like significant.
and given their knowledge and everything of Samantha, I mean, it could make sense that maybe they did try to send both, superpowers tried to send groups in there, and they were quickly like wiped out, or they realized that, just for lack of a better word, they're basically haunted. And
Do we have a date on Kino that I've probably forgotten by chance? Probably in the timeline.
I mean, I think it's supposed to be before 5 and
yeah, it's like a week or two
meeting.
before.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Because I'm trying to think of the right. 5 is the meeting about stopping Samantha. So would they be collaborating on? When would the collaboration at Kino begin? Is what I was trying to think. But if what Kino is before 5, yeah, which obviously.
Yeah, I want to say Kino is like a sparking event that they're like, okay, we need to get this ball rolling and Broken Arrow started.
But we are at Kino already and teleport to the Pentagon. So does that not suggest that they've been there already? Like that's not the sparking event?
That might be.
Well, that's
I don't know.
Is that like the? What if? Oh, what I thought of? What if that's the first Pentagon outbreak or something? It's due to its connection to Kino, like the Kino events cause. But anyway,
That's interesting.
yeah, I think it's always hard because when you get teleported, you're obviously not meant to go to Samantha's room or the Pentagon. And the question that always came to my mind is how much of it is sort of you're naturally being sent there, or you're being sent by like an unseen hand.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
I don't think it necessarily indicates. It might. I mean, that's a good theory though. That they were trying to teleport or like create a teleporter link there. But I think it's also possible that's just like some sort of cosmic connection because I mean.
Yeah.
We're thinking is the cause of the Broken Arrow thing.
So I think at the very least they were monitoring it, but yeah, when you get teleported there, I just see it as when you're dealing with like the quantum stuff, like just sort of elements of randomness, and you said like a cosmic connection, maybe like influence from Samantha, like you're being sent to that place because more of a thematic connection rather than like there's maybe a literal connection or something like that.
So do you think the same thing for the Thunder Gun? I mean, we all know that the mystery box does its and space manipulation.
Yeah.
But I kind of personally believe that the weapon. I've never seen the JGB on a map besides Shang for like it has some sort of connection to. I'm not going to describe it, but how do you think of the Thunder Gun then?
I think it's
the lander.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's possible. I think like even though you have later maps or like the devs and they add variants of the ray gun, like they can retroactively add guns to the box. So like there's the gameplay element, but I think at least when a gun its like debut, there's some canon to it, and I guess it's kind of funny because it's sort of like the canon. But yeah, I mean, given its Cold War, you have the Berlin's divided, Germany's divided. I think it's not much of a stretch that even if it isn't meant to be there, it's still, again, that thematic connection that it was created by the Soviets and they're messing with 115, so now that's why it's displaced in the mystery box.
I'd say it's also worth mentioning that Gersh begins work on Project Thunder in 1962.
I was gonna hold. We can incorporate it. I was gonna bring that up next. What do you think about continuing the Thunder Gun talk about Daniel Clark pull who you pull it off the wall in the message in the mission in Kowloon, I think. How do you all take that?
See, it's hard because it's like the same thing with the ray gun in what was it? There's like the chanting, and it's in
in Japan.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Japan supplied the designs. Daniel Clark supplied. Yeah. Well, Daniel Clark, I guess if you're assuming
the ray gun weapons, yeah.
If you're assuming Daniel Clark helped with the Ascension group, then it kind of makes some sense. Maybe you stole a prototype.
I mean, it's also like I kind of see it as like again thematically, like, oh, Japan did have the ray gun and everything, but like, is it really meant to be there, or is it just like, hey, this is connected to Japan? You know what I mean? Like a
right. I think it was just for fun.
Well, I forgot about the ray gun in World of War.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Oh man, we need anonymous on this or something. We need someone investigating this ASAP.
I mean, obviously, like, yeah, the ray gun in the campaign, it was sort of just an Easter egg. But then when you get to the thunder gun, it's like, okay, well, why is it there? Is it? I mean,
zombies in Black Ops 3 campaign. No, let's not derail. Okay, what were we?
So yeah, we want to move on now to right, Gersh and them starting Project Mercury, and that's.
I just think that's an interesting
group.
I just think that's like an interesting name too, because you have Mercury, and then it seems the special operation was called like Olympus, which is the gathering together of all the scientists. So like similar to our Unit 731 conversation, like maybe there's multiple divisions, and each project is aptly named after a god or something, and that's just the one. Or was Project Mercury just the Thunder Gun? Or was that the whole one? Or was that the whole...
Mercury is the Gersh device, and then Thunder is the Thunder Gun.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, never mind. But at least it's just interesting that, like, you have Project Mercury, and then you have, like, the Zeus Cannon, and then the it's called Olympus. So, and they're all weapons programs.
That's
like the whole...
You think the fact that they call it Project Mercury and Project... the other one, do you think Olympus is... the fact that it's the Soviet operation designated Olympus, like, do you consider them on the same, like, Olympus is like Mercury is like the other, or do you think Olympus...
Well, I meant they're all, like, sub, like, because if you look at the quote, I guess it's from the Intel, or not Intel, the terminals, where it mentions the Ascension Group Executive Summary.
Yeah.
It says these scientists have been co-opted and organized by Soviet General Dragovich for the purpose of pushing forward Soviet weapons development. Sure. And then you follow down and it says the Soviet operation designated Olympus consisted of the 3rd Shock Army Special Operations Unit led by General Dragovich. So I don't know, the way I took it is that Olympus is the program, maybe kind of like their paperclip or something, where then they're going to use sort of Nazi research and scientists to develop all of these weapons, and then all of the weapons sort of have their own code name under the Olympus branch. So you have Mercury, you have Zeus.
Well, see, my assumption was that the Olympus is like their special Black Ops, quote unquote Black Ops, just like their special operations unit of soldiers, like the ones that you see in the mission Project Nova, which includes Reznov and Dmitry Petrenko, the ones that Dragovich leads to find the Nova 6. And then I would assume he would use them further for like his purpose to create Nova 6.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it all fits, because I mean, it's just again, it's even if it's just the initial operation that is then to retrieve them is called Olympus. I mean, it all kind of fits under that branch of the goal is weapons development.
Well, so what's the history? What is the etymology behind Mercury? Like, what is the not etymology, but
I know it's the Latin. Are you talking about the like mythology behind it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, because it's the Latin version of Hermes, and he's sort of the messenger of the god, or like traveler god. So like I guess it's kind of the idea of the Gersh device if you're teleporting all over the place or something. That's maybe the connection.
I was thinking because like we know now that
space, yeah.
The Apothecon blood kind of connects to like the creation of the Gersh device and the Space Monkeys. And that like it somehow connects to that blood, and maybe even, I don't know. Like I guess the blood
there, like, traces of Mercury or something in there, because I mean,
or maybe like just the god of Mercury himself is like, You said he's like Hermes, right? He's like a messenger.
Yeah, it's Hermes. Yeah. Mercury.
So maybe like Pablo or something, because he's the one that told them about it. Gave them
Yeah,
coordinates. I don't know.
that could be true.
And then like maybe the soldiers, whatever, or what was the name of it? The group? Sorry.
The Third Shock Army Special Operations.
What was
Unit.
the name? Sorry.
Oh,
Olympus?
it's
Oh,
Olympus.
Yeah, maybe like Olympus was sent to the ones that were sent to go get the blood, for all we know. Because it was in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, but that's just a tangent.
Yeah.
Maybe. And
I just meant with, even though I know they're sort of playing with the Latin and Greek names, but it was just interesting to kind of establish that connection that you have those names being used and they're all like weapons, and then the head program or the head operation is called Olympus, and that's meant for, as they say, pushing forward Soviet weapons development. So I don't know, just kind of like, again, trying to solidify campaign and zombies as, oh, look, you can place these two weapons into the larger picture of the Cold War Soviet development of, wonder
Right.
weapons based from out of neo-Nazi Germany.
I mean, I would also say, this is, in terms of the name of the group, it's the same in both. I don't think there was ever some sort of, not supposed to be a connection. I definitely think in the beginning there was, and then maybe they forgot that connection. But
Which is just weird,
definitely.
yeah. Because, we had the discrepancy of, like, who led the group and whether Yena, Steiner, because both have sort of been attributed. I feel like we kind of, because the timeline mentions Harvey Yena establishes the Ascension group, right? But then the thing that I'm reading right now says the lead is one Frederick Steiner. And the only way that I feel like you can kind of reconcile that is that it mentions the Ascension group as a coalition of former scientists from the German Wonder Weapons program in Group 935. So, and it was organized by Dragovich. So maybe it's
they're like representatives from each group. I suppose.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, like Steiner and Yena. Steiner was focusing on the, like, didn't you say there's the impression that Gersh and Yuri reported to like a board? So it's kind of like a cool idea that maybe there was like a board consisting of all the sort of different programs, and maybe Steiner is in charge of the board, but Steiner specifically looking into Nova 6. Yena, Gersh, Yuri are all 115 stuff.
I had taken it almost entirely differently, but that definitely could be. I didn't take it as so much of a board as like, I think Yena is the original founder, and the group works under the umbrella. I don't know if directly or indirectly, we think of 935 as, this organization that actually basically just works for the Nazis. I don't know. I get Dragovich is obviously the lead of the Third Shock Army in, or maybe just Olympus, but not the Third Shock. But anyway, in that, so the military seems to have some overview. So that's Dragovich, and then Gershon, Yuri, and them join much later. So I am having difficulty seeing the the contradictions in the leadership structure. Right, we've got, I guess. I don't think the lead being Frederick Steiner necessarily has to mean that he's like
It was founded.
Yena's role as like the former.
Well, it's just kind of hard because, there's enough ambiguity that you don't really know what it was called. I think it's just in later intel, it mentions that at the end of the war, Dragovich kind of picked up Steiner, and then they went to Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems, so it's like, okay, if you kind of look at it from that perspective, that the group was maybe started by Steiner and organized by Dragovich, not necessarily led, but organized by Dragovich.
That goes back to our previous, we had this conversation off air for all the, all you family viewers, about whether, Yena being inside 935, Steiner potentially having, with the Nova program having connections to 935, that, maybe, this was some sort of co-lead situation. Like maybe that's how that gets resolved.
Well, it's also worth mentioning that the members of the Ascension group themselves do not regard Yena necessarily as a leader, because I mean, one of the last radios in Dr. Toten,
Mhm.
it's like after Gersh disappears, because of the Ascension map,
Mhm.
it's like they're all like revolting, and they're like, "What, you're gonna lead us? You can't lead us. You're an American." And like they just don't trust him, regardless of the fact he created the group. So yeah, to me it seems like there's like figureheads that
Mhm.
like are actually Russian, and they're actually the ones kind of uh, leading this committee, because the committee is directly mentioned, and then you have like people that work behind the scenes like Steiner and like Yina.
Yeah, and it makes more sense to sort of have it be representatives from these various groups, like they mentioned,
Right.
the Wonder Weapons Group 935. So if it is sort of this amalgamation of different programs, why I guess you could have, and then later just Soviet scientists who join, why you'd have like fractured loyalties.
Right.
But getting back to Tack's point, I mean, you could even wonder with the connection between Nova 6 and 115 and the crawlers, and if there is some overlap. I mean, because Steiner was part of one of the Waff programs, so did he have any connection to 935, and maybe there was something between him and Richthofen, because Richthofen sends Yina to the Soviets, so you could even maybe yeah, I think it'd be kind of neat to trace it back there, that after the collapse, maybe Richthofen was also trying to include Steiner in some talks for something, and then it just turned into I'm sending Yina to the Soviets, and then Yina and Steiner created Ascension with under Dragovich.
It's also worth mentioning that they allowed Yina to create this, the Americans allowed this because, I mean, they're letting the enemy have this whole group that studies 115. I suppose because
When you have
it's like,
your spy at the top.
right, yeah, because the Russians stole half
Yeah.
the stuff, so it's like, okay, we got to utilize this. Oh, well, let's just create a group in their side, and
No,
we'll
yeah,
transfer over the. So it's like America has some hand in allowing this creation also.
yeah, it's definitely a high risk, high reward. I think it was kind of like what we were saying earlier about destroying the facility and still wanting to work with the Soviets. I mean, having Yina in as a man on the inside, you can kind of steer, take information from the group, steer the group in certain directions, or try and sabotage it at certain points.
Random thought back thinking to Kino. What if the side of the Ascension gun is not, and this doesn't necessarily require a response, but I am just thinking out loud. The side of the Thunder gun does not indicate a Russian response per se as it does an American, because they had Yina at top of Ascension who may have just had the blueprint. So like seeing
They were
the Ascension
testing.
gun there doesn't actually.
Isn't there some quote about the Americans trying to make a knockoff of the Ascension gun or something like that?
They were trying to remake the Winter's Howl on the
Winter's
right.
Howl.
And well, the Thunder gun, isn't there a Thunder gun?
Oh, the Wonder Off too.
5?
They do it.
Is there a Thunder gun on the top shelf in the closet in 5, or am I mistaking that for a different weapon?
There might be.
I don't know if there is.
What's the quote though? What are they specifically? Is it Yuri or Gersh that's referring to? There's some quote about like the Americans are trying to like replicate something, but like the implication is that it's like shoddy and it's not perfected. Is it just the Winter's Howl?
I
Is
just
it
know
Scotty?
that the timeline says they were trying to make their own version of the Winter's Howl,
Mm.
which implying, well, actually, that's, you know what? I always assumed that meant Group 935 was creating a Winter's Howl. But what if the Ascension Group was, and that's the Winter's Howl we actually use is like them trying to recreate the Russian one?
Do we ever see the original? Because I mean, Scotty is the Project Scotty is just the name for the Winter's Howl. But like, is there any sort of a indication where the Winter's Howl first originated? I mean, I guess kind of based on what you said, it doesn't seem like it, but
No, but
it just
that does seem more interesting. Because I mean, yeah, it seems like more maybe like a Russian weapon, and then yeah, the one on 5 is like it's got like circuits sticking out. It seems really prototypey.
I mean, at least it could be 935 because I mean Scotty and sort of the Norse god, but yeah, it's weird because I always took it as they were just trying to put their own spin on like ray gun technology because we never really get the actual Winter's Howl.
I would almost lean towards it being Soviet, only because I'm interested. I forget who made this. It was either I think it was Rasol, who who did the posts about the VR11 um and the winters, how and just maybe the icy water being from the Siberian facility.
Mm,
And so if we want to maybe give, I guess you could debate between the ray gun being Japanese or Group 935, but if it is 935, then maybe, right, the Russians get uh, the tower, but they probably also get the thunder guns. So what do the Americans get?
They got the ray guns. They got a shit ton of ray guns.
yeah, they seem to like the
What
ray
did
guns.
they create?
What is the what?
What did they create indigenously in the same way that the Japanese made the ray gun, or maybe 935, depending on how you do that.
We'll
Do
see.
we even? Did the Japanese make the ray? I'm sorry. Did they make the first ray gun, or was there sort of
They
like a
supplied
blueprint?
the blueprints. They supplied
Okay.
the designs.
Basic idea. So
'Cause
then
is that-
if we give the thunder gun and the Winter's Howl to the Russians, what wonder weapon would the Americans have created from scratch?
The paralyzer, jet gun, those weapons.
Well, it kind of fits with the theme of the space race, because you know how the space race, most of the U.S.'s achievements came second,
Mhm.
but then finally in the end, they got the first to them like step on the moon.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It kind of seems like this is a case of like, okay, the U.S. is second in all these cases.
Mhm.
Then it's mostly just them ripping off, like the Ascension group in like 935. That might be the case. They might not really have that many original. It's mostly stuff based off of everyone else. It's their own spin on it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, do we even know? I know we're sort of speculating with the Winter's Howl, but because the Winter's Howl we see is a prototype, but we never really get the sense of what the actual Winter's Howl was, and whether or not it's Russian or the Russians taking it from the Germans, or it's also weird because with the elemental staffs we never really get anything with ice, right? Because it's fire, is it dark, electricity? What am I missing?
Yeah. Earth,
Wind.
wind, fire,
Wind.
water.
Yeah, we never. I mean, I guess wind maybe, but like we never really get anything with ice. So it's like the one weird elemental themed weapon.
Ice is frozen water, more or less.
Yeah.
I learned that.
Yeah, I mean
Very
that's what I'm
well.
saying. Like if you, but we don't have a water, right? And I was saying the only thing that I
Huh?
could think of is just, is there a water staff or no?
Well, it is called the Staff of Water in the files. That was
Oh.
from like because when Origins Remastered came out in Chronicles, it was called the Staff of Water for a little while for some reason.
But is it the one that became the staff of wind then?
It's supposed to be the Staff of Ice. So that's what it was in the original, but it's just I think that was like the file name maybe.
So in Origins it's ice. In the original it was water. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, it's like I think in the file names it's Staff of Water. Like when the Chronicles version came out, it was Staff of Water, and people are confused because it's supposed to be Staff of Ice.
Okay, so then
But then they fixed it.
wait, so there's fire, darkness.
Fire, wind, ice, and electricity.
And-
Yeah, lightning.
Okay.
Hang on, is that fire? We've got fire, wind, electricity, and ice. But then that's more than, because you have fire, wind, electricity, ice, and darkness. That's 5, but
Well,
there's
darkness is I think one of those runes on them.
4. Oh, okay. So it isn't. Okay, darkness is what threw me off. All right, so then we do have ice. Never mind.
Random question. Does darkness relate at all to like the void bow in DE? That seems sort of
That's what I always sort of connected the two.
interesting. All right, continue, sir.
I think that's where we were. That's where we were going.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. What's the ray gun? Or the Winter's Howl? Who created it? I guess if there was anything unique to the United States, I mean, would you like the Paralyzer? Any of the stuff from Black Ops 2? Those maps? Because there's somehow, I mean, unless the Paralyzer is a Chinese weapon, but then it die rise as a broken arrow sight. So
That's
Are
right. You mean the Slicker Fire?
Yeah, you're right. It's liquefier. Why did I think it's yeah, it's
Seems to be made of
liquefier.
trash. It seems like something created after the apocalypse.
Yeah,
Just
so
based on
that's
the
why
fact
I
that's
think
assembled with parts, like the jet gun.
yeah, the jet gun. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it could be like rough blueprints of something, kind of
You
like a.
trash weapons ever. Come on. I don't know if I can say that or if we get demonetized, but
So
We were never monetized.
I'm giving
you
the
get points instead of money.
giving the winner's how to the Americans just because the Russians can take the Thunder Gun, and we'll just call it quits there.
Well, we don't know who created the paralyzer then for buried. Is that just Jeb Brown?
Still don't know. It might be Jeb Brown. Could be.
So then at least
Max.
the Americans technically get the real device, the pack a punch.
Oh yeah, they were the first.
We were the first technically in that regard.
Time bomb.
Yeah, time bomb. So we just did it before everyone else.
All right, never mind. I take it back. Incredible innovation.
Okay. So what else is there to talk about Ascension? Is there anything we want to wrap it up?
I think that's I feel like everything else is probably gonna devolve into some side tangent, but yeah.
Right. There's so many different angles you could. Yeah, I don't. Unless you want to do a tangent on like the silverback, you may as well call it quits.
The monkeys on the moon. I think the Exposed magazine says there's like a whole colony of monkeys on the moon that were sent there.
See, that's the thing I wonder. Is Exposed magazine? I want to believe it's like a tabloid magazine that no one takes seriously because it just seems like such a bizarrely accurate thing, and like no one's like, oh wow, there's a silverback gorilla, a zombified silverback gorilla, and Soviet space monkeys.
It's like our National Enquirer or something. It's just
I want to believe
crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, because
that could be where maybe wasn't Stu. Maybe Stu wrote for them.
Ooh.
Stu wrote for the Exposed magazine.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was gonna say the thing about the space colony of monkeys came from the museum map in Black Ops 4. It's like that narrator, and he kind of goes into like it's kind of like Exposed magazine where it's like all hyperbole, and like you don't know if they're telling the whole truth. But it fits with the theme of like the Exposed magazine, where it's like this tabloid.
It's just that
there's some
map.
truth to it.
Yeah, and that map I think deserves just like a video by itself, just because it just so many things that it talks about. Like with I think there's the implication that like transit is in some time bubble or something like that. Because I mentioned people just disappearing overnight, and like, oh okay.
Right.
Also, why are there chaos maps there?
Boy. All right, you know what? Fine. All right. Into another museum, multiplayer map video. We can do that. We will supply the people with what they want.
Exactly. Whether they want it or not, we know what they want.
It shall be supplied.
Yeah. So, I guess that wraps up the Ascension group talk tonight. That was really fun.
Yeah.
So, we'll see you guys next time with whatever the hell we do.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Bye.